Welcome to the Bearded Banter podcast, where we'll discuss everything gaming. So sit on back and listen up. Get your headphones ready, we're gonna discuss video games, it's gonna be fun. A final time for everyone. Wow! Welcome to the Bearded Banter podcast, and this is episode 4, and we're gonna talk about the PS2 and how it relates to the last generation of gaming. And with that little introduction, welcome everyone to episode 3 of the Bearded Banter podcast, the gaming podcast, where today we're going to talk about one of the legendary consoles of the last generation, the PlayStation 2. I am your host, Shane, aka the Bearded One. With me is a special guest, Mr. Gingerbeard, aka Nicholas Curley of Clism Gaming. Thanks for doing this, bro.
Yeah, no problem. Mr. Gingerbeard was my father.
Call me Gingy. Okay, so, Random Richard is away for this episode. He is currently busy with family. So he will not be in this episode, so Nick is taking over as co-host just this once.
Right.
Just this once.
Right.
Hopefully Riley will be back, and then I won't have to listen to Nick's stupid brother in the background.
Yeah.
But, anyway, today we're going to be talking about the PlayStation 2. Anyone who hasn't played the PS2 or never owned a PS2, you are missing out, because that was probably the best console of the last generation. So, today's episode, what we're going to do, is going to give a little history of the PS2, not very much. But mainly what we're going to talk about is how we think the PlayStation 2 held up against the other consoles of its generation. So how it held up against the GameCube and the Xbox. And we're going to give our opinions on the PS2 as a whole, as a console, and then we're going to name some memorable games that we played back in the day. So, here we go! Okay, so, PlayStation 2 was Sony's follow-up to the PlayStation 1. It was released, I believe, in October of 2000. Let me just check that real quick.
I'm pretty sure it was one of the earlier released consoles of its time.
October 26, 2000, the PlayStation 2 was released. And, basically, it was released in 2 different versions. The original version was a thicker, fatter version, which kind of was the crappier version. It kind of crapped out a lot on people.
It was like a 30-pound console. It was insane.
Yeah, it was literally like a brick. You could break into someone's house with an old PS2.
Could you imagine just launching it through someone's window? Breaking in, motherfucker!
Sup, bitches? And then eventually they're like, oh, well, this thing is breaking. What do we do? So they made the PS2 Slim. Actually, now that I think about it, I look at the comparison between the two. It's like someone who eats McDonald's compared to someone who eats salad. It's like, I'm going to make that comparison because there's a lot of fat people I know.
Or if you go to McDonald's and order a salad.
True. But it's like the original PS2, it's like a brick. And then the Slim PS2, it's like a notebook. Yep. Whatever. So, yeah, so the PS2 was released in October of 2000, and it was a great console. It was a great follow-up to the PlayStation 1. It had some really stellar games on it, which we'll be talking about later on. But, Nick, I have a question for you now.
Yes.
Alrighty. So, you had a PS2, right?
Correct.
Alright, and, what other consoles did you have at the time? Like, did you have a GameCube? Did you have an Xbox?
At one point in time, I had all of the consoles except for a PS2. That's what I was missing from my collection. And then I went to, we were traveling along some highway or whatever, and there was a yard sale, so we're like, okay, let's stop. And they had a PS2, like a slim one, for like $40, and we're like, well, we don't have this yet, so let's get it. And it came with all the cables and everything, and we just had to get controls.
That's a pretty good deal.
Oh, yeah. I think they were just trying to get rid of it. But I'm pretty sure, I'm not quite sure, but don't quote me on this. I think I had the first Xbox before I had the PlayStation.
Okay. Did you ever have a GameCube?
No, but my Wii doubles as a GameCube. So if in which time I want to go like get a GameCube game and try it out, I'll just do it on my Wii.
I guess that technically counts. Okay, so you've had all of the last generation consoles. How do you think that the PS2 held up to the competition?
Well, the PS2 was actually unique out of its kind because, personally, like, as I know, like, a bunch of my friends had a PlayStation 2, and that was kind of like the whole, how should I say, like, get up out of, like, the entire generation of, you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So normally you would come home from school and be like, oh, I'm going to go play my PS2, but nowadays it's like, oh, I'm going to go play my Xbox, I'm going to go play with my PS3. But at its time, it was, like, one of the best consoles, and I believe it sold, like, somewhere in the billions of consoles itself. But it's a pretty cool system.
Let me just check that. Units sold 155 million worldwide as of November 2011.
Oh, okay, that was pretty exaggerate, but yeah, they did sell a considerable amount. But it would actually be pretty cool to see the comparison between the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox, see who sold more.
That would be interesting because they were both very popular systems. I think the PS2 and the Xbox combined overshadowed everything the GameCube was doing.
Yeah, to be honest, the GameCube was kind of just... It's like... Here's a comparison. If you were out on the playground and you have two kids, like two friends, just sitting on the bench, and you got PlayStation and Xbox, right? Mm-hmm. And then GameCube comes over, and then everyone just gets up and leaves because he's the kid that doesn't fucking matter.
He's the kid that doesn't fit.
But I mean, that's kind of a loose comparison because PlayStation and Xbox is like the Pepsi and Coca-Cola of video games.
Yeah, it really is.
But I'm actually going to check that really quick. Xbox units.
Okay, while you're doing that, I'll give my opinion on the PS2. I got the PS2 right when it came out. So, like, Christmas 2000, I had the original PlayStation 2 model. I never had an original Xbox, so I can't say for that. But I consider the PS2 the only console I had of the last generation, because while I did have a GameCube, I got a GameCube super late, like 2007, I got a GameCube. So I don't honestly consider the GameCube one of the consoles I had of that generation, because I got it so late.
Okay, so units sold for the original Xbox, 24 plus million as of May 10th, 2006.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow, that's a huge comparison.
Because I believe the PlayStation 2 came out before the Xbox.
Well, yeah, it did. It came out a year before the Xbox or the GameCube.
Yeah. So what Sony was doing was it was kind of their idea to create a unique console that ran modern age games, and then Xbox came out. And then GameCube is kind of like on the fence because they're just on their own. Mm-hmm. Nintendo as an entire company is just pretty much on their own because they have Nintendo DS, they have Wii, they have like partnership with like Sega, so they just have their own kind of like Sega Genesis, Dreamcast, stuff like that. They're on their own kind of picture, and then PlayStation and Xbox are just kind of like trying to duke it out neck and neck. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's actually really true, because the console war of the last generation was basically between the Xbox and the PlayStation 2 to see who was better. GameCube was off doing its own thing, and it had its followers, but the real big console war of the last generation was between Microsoft and Sony.
Yes. Because
the GameCube wasn't really considered a noble competitor, because it really didn't have a lot of games.
Now, I believe Sony was actually a company before Microsoft.
You check that up.
Because I do remember Microsoft, Bill Gates did work for Apple at one time, and he said, fuck this, I'm done, I'm going to go off on my own. And what Bill Gates actually did was he stole some of Apple's ideas at the time and actually developed Windows.
Oh, cool.
And I think it's, to be honest, Windows 8, when it comes out, is going to have kind of a dock just like a Mac will.
Okay.
So I think it's just Windows is kind of giving up, and they're just like, okay, we're just gonna go do like a Mac OS kind of deal, which would be kind of cool and kind of shitty at the same time.
True. But
I'm gonna search that up actually.
Okay. But yeah, PlayStation 2 was one of the big competitors of the last console generation, because GameCube, while it was a pretty good system, the only real memorable games on the system were first-party Nintendo titles. And all the other games on it were either shitty third-party games or ports.
Mm-hmm.
That's all the GameCube really was. It was a place that developers could port their games to. And then, of course, Nintendo were making their games for it, but... Yeah, so what do you think of the PS2 overall as a console?
I think it's actually a really good console, and well, for not being racist or anything, but it's like black, and Xbox is white, so it's kind of like a gradient difference. PlayStation, from personal experience, has actually been a really cool system because of a bunch of. In its time, it had a lot of good games, and it wasn't specifically based on graphics as it is now. But it had, at its time, the graphics were horrible, but at its time, it was great graphics. But it came PS2, then Xbox, and then PS3 decided to, hey, we're going to make these graphics really amazing. And then Xbox was like, okay, we don't really care about graphics. We're just going to go straight for game content. And that is actually the difference between Xbox and PS3. And you guys can argue on this in the comments if you so choose to, but we're not going to talk about that.
We're not, no.
But yeah, PlayStation is for graphics and Blu-ray and internet browsing and free online. And then Xbox is for
hardcore games.
Fun-loving family people that like to hardcore game and actually pay for and support their company.
Now, how does this relate to generation?
Well, being in the last generation myself, a lot of my friends and like acquaintances can relate to this because they all grew up playing these consoles. So, like, for example, if you go to ask your parents, like, what consoles did you have in your late 20s, because that's when Atari and stuff started coming out around there, most of them will remember Pong, most of them will remember Atari, most of them will remember playing Super Mario Brothers for the SNES and stuff like that. So they'll kind of relate with their generation, and we'll relate with our generation. And when we have kids, we'll tell them that, normally it would be, we didn't have video games when we were a kid. Now it's going to be, we had video games when we were a kid, and now they're going to have some kind of like holographic stuff when we have kids.
Probably.
And then it's just going to be like, well, we didn't have holograms when you were a kid.
No, we had the PlayStation 2, and that shit was badass.
Hell yeah. I'm still searching this.
Okay, so just give me your overall opinion on the console, like, real quick.
Good games, good graphics for its time. It did freeze at times, didn't really overheat. It was a good console, and it doesn't really relate to most modern-day consoles because most modern-day consoles have many, many issues. But a PS2 was actually a good console. Didn't really have any problems with it unless you smashed it against a brick wall.
True.
But it was an overall good system.
And actually, you mentioned that it overheats a lot. I actually have a story about what happened to my old PS2. So I got the first model, the fat model of the PS2, back when it came out. Christmas 2000, I got that. And I had that for about 4 years. Now, in 2004, around Christmas time, I had gotten Ratchet & Clank Up Your Arsenal, which was a fantastic game. It really was.
Yeah.
That game got me into the Ratchet series. And then I went back and played all the old ones. But I remember it was a couple weeks after I'd gotten it. I was near the end of the game, and I was playing this, like, non-stop. Like, all day. And I remember I was on Planet Hollywood, and I was just playing the game normally, and all of a sudden, right in the middle of my gameplay, it went into first-person mode, and then it, like, Ratchet would look up and start spinning in circles, and I wasn't doing anything. I'm like, what the hell's going on? And then, like, I tried restarting the console, but it wouldn't do anything, and I'm like, okay, I have no idea what's going on. We later found out that I've been playing it so much that it actually overheated, and the bottom of the system melted.
Wow.
Yeah, so...
And ladies and gentlemen, that's how first-person shooters were born. Because of your fuck-up.
Because of my fuck-up. Yeah, so that's the story I have about my old PS2, but I guess I'll give my opinion on the system real quick before we get into the actual games. As I said, like, I grew up with the system in the last generation because I didn't have an Xbox and I got a GameCube super late. So this was my main console. I played the shit out of this thing, obviously, to the point where it freaking melted. I loved this console. It had great games. It had great graphics for the time. We gotta think back to the time it was in. Those graphics were outstanding.
Oh yeah, like they didn't really change the graphics from the PlayStation 1 to the PlayStation 2. They did a little bit, but it wasn't as drastic as like PlayStation 3 nowadays.
True. But it's like, it had great graphics at the time. I actually really liked the controller too.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much with the PS3 controller now, even though I know it's the same thing. It's too light and it like cramps my hands.
Yeah, the PlayStation PlayStation controllers didn't really change.
No.
What really changed were Xbox controllers. Xbox used to have a big freaking massive kind of football-shaped fucking controller, and then it went all the way down to this nice white kind of thing that fits in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
But PlayStation went from... I think I still have a PlayStation controller around here, but it went from like normal to like DualShock, and then it went to like insane wireless DualShock.
Yeah, because like the PS1 controller, it was heavy because it had hardware in it, and it didn't have one analog stick, so you had to use the D-pad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it was like that was heavy because it was like full of tech.
Actually,
what?
Correction, when it was first released, it didn't have analog sticks, but like later on, they developed one with 2 analog sticks on it.
And that was the DualShock 2, which was the PS2 controller.
Yep.
And the PS2 controller, it felt better than the PS1 because, first of all, it had analog sticks, so you could you could control games more accurately. And it also felt, I don't know, it felt like it felt better in my hands as I was playing.
Yeah.
I don't know, it felt like it maybe shrank a little bit, but it wasn't, noticeable. It actually felt better. And then the DualShock 3 with the PlayStation 3 is basically just a shell. It's like, it weighs nothing.
Yeah, basically.
I can't hold that thing for the life of me. It's like, it's too small, it's too light, it cramps my hands up because they're so close together.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, my favorite controller right now is a 360 controller. It's like, it's the perfect weight, it's the perfect size.
Yep. Yeah, and it's I'm pretty sure that it had some architectural factors to that because they probably measured the dimensions of the controller and said, here's a comfortable position to have your hands spread apart and it won't really cramp up your hands as well as the PlayStation controller did.
Yeah. But it's anyway, so it's the controller felt good. The hardware, it didn't break easily, as Gingerbeard said. You had to basically destroy it to get it to stop working. Overall, a great system, and I really had a lot of fun with it.
As we were talking about before, the Microsoft and Sony, when they first came into market, Microsoft right here says that it was founded in April 4th, 1975, and Sony was 1946.
Wow.
May 7th, 1946. And to be honest, the actual founder of Sony obviously was Asian because it was made in Sony was founded in Japan, yeah, and he has some insane name that I'm not going to pronounce because I'm going to hurt myself, and yeah, he kind of died of old age because that's how old the company was.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the difference there. It's like Sony was founded in the mid-40s, and while Microsoft was founded in the mid-70s, Sony's been around twice as long as Microsoft has.
Oh yeah.
So it's like they've really had more time to advance their tech and their systems.
Now the PlayStation versus the Xbox. The Xbox was released as you said 2001-ish. PlayStation as a it's actually a franchise. It was actually introduced in 1994. So not really much difference in dates there, but the PlayStation was first for those who do care.
Okay, we're kind of getting off topic from the actual what we're talking about. But, yeah, so cluttered in that mess of a podcast is our thoughts on the PS2. Now we're going to go on to our memorable games that we played on the PS2. Nick, what are some memorable titles that you remember playing?
Well, most of the time I didn't really get into the whole, like PlayStation 1. Oh, I did, but, I normally just brought the PlayStation 1 games to the PlayStation 2 because it had the backwards compatibility and you were able to bring the older games over.
Mm-hmm.
So I just played like old titles like Spyro, Crash Bandicoot, Crash Team Racing.
Crash Team Racing. That was
Magical Disney Racing or some crap like that. And then PlayStation 2, recently actually I've been playing Tony Hawk's Underground 2, which is a really awesome title. Actually, Tony Hawk's games are really awesome.
Yeah, just in general, Tony Hawk
around
games
there,
are really
yeah.
awesome.
But as the quick story on this, as they started getting older and older, they started getting shittier and shittier. Because
obviously,
because it started off as like Pro Skater 1, and then Pro Skater 2, 3, 4. Then it went Underground 2. And then I was really looking forward to an Underground 3, but they really didn't do that. Then they went Wasteland, then, I think it was Project 8, and then Proving Ground. Proving Ground was actually not bad. And then they started doing, like, Ride. Ride's stupid.
I don't know. How did we get started talking about Tony Hawk?
I don't know. But overall, I just started playing, like, the old PlayStation 1 games.
Mm-hmm. And that's it. Don't tell me he dropped. Yeah, he dropped. Okay, so while he's getting back into the call here, I'm going to go series, which was on an amazing series. Oh, Nick, you're back. I was just talking about my memorable games that I played.
Yeah, sorry, my internet's kind of a cunt watermelon.
Yeah, well, I was just talking about, like, I played everything the PS2 had to offer. I played the original Jak and Daxter games, which were... My favorite is Jak 3. You have your own opinion on that, but I really enjoyed Jak and Daxter. I played the shit out of Ratchet and Clank. Ratchet and Clank was the reason my old PS2 broke. So
because it melted on the fucking bottom.
It melted. But Ratchet and Clank, that was definitely a memorable series I played. Sly Cooper was another one. I loved Sly Cooper. It was a great platforming series.
I only played that once.
Really, which one?
I don't quite remember, but it was like a Sly Cooper, I think it was 2 demo, back in the days where you would go to Walmart and they had
you would
fucking TV.
Get game magazines?
Yeah. No, they had the TV on the top shelf, and you would stand there like as a little kid.
Yeah, they
you
would have
like
the console set up, and you could play it.
You would get like fucking whiplash because you'd like look up for 4 hours straight trying to.
I was thinking of like the old gaming magazines where they would like release a demo disc with a bunch of demos on it.
Those were the bomb. I had those for the first Xbox, and I actually still have one. And I think I remember that's how I got my Jet Set Radio Future and like the whole game. I was like, that's awesome.
That's cool. But anyway, so Sly Cooper was another memorable series that I played. I love Sly Cooper. A very underrated series on the PS2 was Flat Out. Do you remember Flat Out?
Yes, I remember Flat Out.
Flat Out was fucking awesome.
Flat Out was like the Dirt of its time back then. Dirt is like a racing game.
It was like you take Burnout, but then you throw in the best ragdoll physics I've ever seen.
It's like Motor Drift for the PlayStation 3.
I'm not familiar with that title.
Motor Drift is basically it's like off-road and you're like riding on a cliff and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And you have all this boost. And then it's kind of like Burnout, but like in the wild. It's kind of sick.
Okay. But yeah, Flat Out was definitely an underrated series. Flat Out 2 was significantly better than the first one.
Yeah, the first... Actually, most first games are just like...
prototypes.
Yeah, they're like prototypes to see how it is. And then like take Saints Row, for example. Saints Row 1 was like just cars and shitty, and then like there was actually a story to it. Saints Row 2 started getting more and more, and then Saints Row the third was like, bam, we're just gonna throw pink dildo and shit all in your face, and you can run around in a pink bikini. Like, no game does that.
No game really does it.
But flat out, actually, the first one was kind of like a kind of Dukes of Hazzard-ish graphics.
Yeah.
You like yeehaw, kind of like
yeehaw.
And then Flat Out 2 was just like, bam, we're gonna introduce you with like all these bright ass colors and better game content, and just like
we're gonna thrust you in a city, and there's gonna be a better color palette, and there's gonna be super tight controls, and there's gonna be way more amusing ragdoll physics with the crashes, and then we're gonna introduce all these mini games revolving around crashing your character. Those fucking mini games were the shit.
Hell yeah! I think they just put out a first game to see how it's gonna do on the market and how people like it, and then they take people's reviews and comments and stuff on forum sites, and they're just like gonna put them in the second game and just make all their dreams come true.
Mm-hmm. And it definitely did get better because it's one of the best games on the PS2.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, Flat Out's definitely a great franchise. The PS2 Crash games were also really good. I mean, I know it's not Naughty Dog making them anymore, but they were still really great games. Like Wrath of Cortex was a great throwback to the old Crash style. Mm-hmm. But, you know, it kind of, at that point, it kind of gets stale because it's the same thing. And then what do? Boom! They throw in fucking Crash Twinsanity, which was so good. It's like here, we're not gonna have this linear level design anymore. Basically, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take Crash, we're gonna throw him into an open world, we're gonna let him team up with Cortex, and they're just gonna go around fucking shit up, and it was great. It was also hilarious just seeing Crash drag Cortex around because they're fighting over a crystal.
Yeah, I don't think Crash Bandicoot can ever like be shitty.
I'm not sure about that, but yeah, Crash Insanity was definitely a great game. Crash Tag Team Racing had to be my favorite Crash PS2 game though, because like I loved the amusement park setting. I liked the game. I actually liked the on-foot gameplay. That's what people complain about. It's like, oh, it doesn't feel like Crash when you're on foot. But it's like, Crash controls really well. It's really fluid controls. He can spin forever, which is always great.
Yeah.
You run around beating the shit out of ninja penguins.
Because you love that.
Yeah, that's fucking great. And it's like, the racing was really solid too, and it was really original because what Crash Tag Team Racing improved upon the traditional kart racing gimmick was you could morph with other racers on the track. Mm-hmm. It's like, you could take your car and you could send it into morph mode, and once you got close enough to another opponent, you could morph your car with theirs, and then it would become like a tank. So basically, it would turn an ally into a teammate, where one person would drive and the other person would be on like a mounted gun turret, and each character had their own unique turret. So that I thought it was really original and was my favorite Crash game on the PS2. I don't care what anyone says. But I'm trying to think of Destroy All Humans. Destroy All Humans.
Oh,
fucking
my god, yes.
Amazing. I know you're big on that too.
Fuck yeah, it was the best game ever.
I love that game. It was like you took GTA and then you basically
Grand Theft Auto, aliens, a fucking UFO, and just basically beat the shit out of like all of humankind in San Francisco with a bunch of hippies.
In San Francisco in the 60s. It was great. But I'm actually thinking the next time we get together, which I'm going to talk to you about that after we're done here, but the next time we get together with Riley, I'm thinking we do another virtual rampage in Destroy All Humans.
Oh yeah, for
real.
Because
like we could get together at his house, and I'll bring, because I have both of them for PS2, I'll bring over the games and my memory card, and we could just do a virtual rampage in that. That would be really fun.
That'd be hilarious.
But I'm trying to think of what else I have for the PS2. I'm pretty sure that's it, but there were still a lot of other memorable games. Like, I know I never played it, but there was God of War. Mm-hmm. Obviously, God of War.
I tried to play it. I was like, I bought it, and then I was like, oh, I'm going to play the shit out of this. And then I go to put it on, and the game doesn't fucking work.
Ah, that's great.
So I brought it back and got my money back. I was like, that was a disappointment.
Yeah, that's great when you buy a broken game. But, yeah, I never played God of War, but there's God of War. There's Killzone, which, again, I never played, but apparently it's a big franchise for Sony.
Mm-hmm. It's only for Sony, too. Sony itself, I should say, not.
Yeah, it's a Sony exclusive franchise.
But it's kind of like It's kind of like not really like Call of Duty. It's kind of like
No,
a Call of Duty and Battlefield together, but it's its own story.
yeah.
So it feels like it feels a little like Fear,
It has
except without the scary aspect.
It definitely has a unique setting to it.
Like I really want to say it feels like Battlefield 3, but it came out before.
I don't think exactly that's how you could compare it, but yeah, there was Killzone, which
But like it was its own unique kind of feel to it.
yeah, it definitely had a uniqueness to it, which set it apart from all the other shooters.
Actually, most games that you play, like they kind of have their own vibe to it. Like for example, Killzone. If you were to play Killzone, you actually feel like you're playing Killzone, like you're actually in the game.
Yeah, because it has like its own universe and characters that give it that unique edge over its competition.
Now, if you were to play a Grand Theft Auto, it's like, oh yeah, I'm just in some like goofy city.
I'm just in some city. I'm gonna fuck some shit up. Boom, explosions. Gee.
Actually, I want to figure out the percentage of the amount of people that just go home after a day of like school or work, go on Grand Theft Auto, and just like
Fuck
beat the
shit
shit out of hookers, like shoot cops. I want to see the comparison of like people who actually complete the story mode and people who actually just fuck around.
That would be interesting.
I bet the people that just fuck around, it's a bigger percentage than people who actually beat the game and play the game for its story and to finish it to its complete glory.
I know that's what I do. But what else did the PS2 have? It had
its own like franchise of games that were only for the PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
Because most games for the Xbox had like the old cases would go up in the corner and be like only for Xbox, and it had this giant fucking stamp on it.
Yeah.
And then like Halo was only for the Xbox, like, and then there's
seal of approval.
Killzone was only for the PlayStation, right?
Yeah.
So they had their own like the people that bought PS2 or the people that bought the PS2, and the people that bought the Xbox were the people that bought the Xbox and enjoyed the PlayStation-based games and then the Xbox-based games. You know what I'm like kind of talking about?
Yeah.
So like, let's say you wanted to play Sly Cooper.
Sly Cooper.
Yeah. Let's say you want to play Sly Cooper or Killzone when you come home from school, you would go play your PlayStation. Let's say you wanted to play Halo when you come home from school, you would
go play your Xbox.
Because that's the uniqueness of those consoles itself.
Yeah.
So, like they each have their own feel to them. That's
what you're trying to get at.
Yeah.
But yeah, PS2 had a lot of unique like exclusive franchises, which were really memorable for me because I played most of the PS2 games, like the big ones. But like I said before, while I haven't played some of these franchises, PlayStation 2 definitely had its share of memorable exclusive titles like God of War and Killzone and all that jazz, which really set the console apart from the Xbox and the GameCube.
Oh yeah.
But now that we talked about that, what's your favorite PS2 game that you played? Final question before we end this.
I've got to say, like, you mean, like, to its own as PS2 or, like, overall the systems?
Favorite PlayStation 2 game on that console? Like, I'm not saying exclusive or anything, just your favorite PS2 game overall.
Oh, probably like Tony Hawk's Underground 2, because that's the only one that I actually spent the most time on and played.
Okay. Alright, I'd have to say my favorite is either Ratchet & Clank Up Your Arsenal or Jak 3. Because those two games were the majority of my experience with the PlayStation 2. I loved those games. But I can't really decide which one I like more, so I'm just going to say those two are my favorite. So, before we end this podcast, recap. Opinion on PS2, real quick.
PlayStation 2 was black, and it was, yeah, just that's it. It was black. No,
Good night, everybody. We'll see you next time.
No, good system, good games for its time. Just to mention a little bit in there, Metal Gear Solid.
Metal Gear Solid, how could I forget that?
Come on!
Damn it! Riley would kill me if he was here right now.
I know, we had to put that in there just in case. Anyway, wrapping up here, we have good system, good games, good graphics for its time, and basically beat all of the other systems around
By far.
its time because it was just unique, it was great. And then Xbox came out and kind of ruined it all. But now, I mean, it's just Xbox is better than PlayStation, in my opinion, right now.
Yeah.
But in its time, you would come home from school, be like, yeah, let's play this shit. And you bring your friends over and take your shot at Sly Cooper and shit. And
I know, I used to do that.
Oh, yeah, or Metal Gear Solid. Just
or,
like,
whatever you like to play. But my opinion, real quick, great system, definitely big part of my childhood. Really memorable games. Ratchet and Clank, Jak and Daxter, Metal Gear Solid, God of War, all that jazz. Really good games, really good graphics, great control scheme, good hardware that basically would never die unless you killed it yourself.
Yeah, or it fucking melted on you.
Or it melted, like in my experience. But overall, a really solid system, and definitely the best system out of its generation.
Mm-hmm.
But with that, we're going to wrap up here on Bearded Banter. So that concludes this episode, episode 3. We'll see you next time for the podcast. My name is The Bearded One. With me is Gingerbeard.
Yo.
And we'll see you guys next time. Keep on gaming.